And G1 Fetid Music says, I spray my Glocks with terps. That is very cute. Very, very, very cute. Good morning and good afternoon. It is Saturday, June 15th, 2024, and this is the weekly blunt wrap of the Blacklist XYZ. I'm your host, Jason Beck, and please remember to smash that like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as drop us a comment below of what you think about this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. Let's get right into it with story number 1 from the Emerald Triangle. The Blacklist says, I thought it was common knowledge in the Emerald Triangle that Kana was primarily funded by big tobacco money, though. Altria, Kronos Group, Gotham Green, Partners, Kana. But after speaking with a number of Emerald Triangle farmers, I realized that most are still unaware, even farmers who worked with and got burned by Kana. So here you go. And don't take my word for it. Read this article from an independent journalist in the Upper Humboldt area. Just Google Jason Adler, Kronos, Gotham Green, and Google Altria Kronos. It's all there. This is not a conspiracy. It's really easy to connect the dots using their own websites and press releases. What gets weirder is that Kana was the founding sponsor for the nonprofit trade group who claims to be fighting for the small farmers. Word on the street is that Kana donated the initial $50,000 to the trade group for it to get started. It is important to understand that big corporations often create nonprofit groups to appear to look like grassroots organizations, but in reality, the nonprofit is a tool to spread the propaganda, messaging, and policies of the big corporations who are funding them. It's called astroturfing, a clever name for these fake grassroots nonprofits who are secretly promoting the policies and agendas of the big corporations. It's clever, and when done well, stakeholders, donors, local governments, customers, and politicians have no idea they are being duped. Business owners may even be a member of the nonprofit and pay annual dues and make donations, not realizing the trade groups they belong to may in reality be working against them. Yipes! Cannabis is a multi-billion-dollar fast-growing industry, so it would be naive to assume that sophisticated schemes and strategies are not being deployed by some of the most. Oh. Okay. Cannabis is a multi-billion-dollar fast-growing industry, so it would be naive to assume that sophisticated schemes and strategies are not being deployed by some of the most rascally and nefarious players on the planet. You can read more about this at Jade Nectar. Well, you know, this Kana thing was a one big whole debacle. They definitely fleeced all of the outdoor farmers, and along with Steve D'Angelo and them raising the acreage cap here in California, the little farmer is already pretty much out of business already. It's a very, very sad story in regards to all of the legacy cultivators up in Humboldt, the Emerald Triangle, Mendocino County, and all of those areas up north in the greater Northern California. And they're all being basically, just got all their weed is just, it's not going nowhere. You have outdoor weed, $200-300 a pound. It's not a good thing for these guys. It's just really, really sad to see what has happened because of this acreage cap that has allowed for a lot of these massive large-scale grows in order to be able to proliferate. And we are going to roll right on in to see what you guys have to say. And again, for all of you out there, if I do murder your Instagram name, I do apologize in advance. It is not on purpose. I'm just trying to read how it looks. You know what I'm saying? But starting off with our first comment of the day on this whole Kana debacle, the Emerald Triangle, we have rock and roll. That's right, Mr. Josh Kesselman, the CEO of Raw Papers. He says, there's even more that I wish I could share. Mega Tobacco has some really awful plans for our industry. To which J Styles 290 says, rock and roll, why can't you share it? To which also the Jesse Barney also replies to rock and roll and says, you can't just come out and say that. Now you got us all drooling, he says. Truth Hurts 2023 also responded to rock and roll and says, people like you are the problem, acting as if you can't speak out. You are suspect number one if you keep quiet. And DC.Otiro says, rock and roll, please spread the word now before it's bad and hard to stop. Big Jig says, great. Thought of connecting the dots, but you didn't. Weird post 2 years later. The relevance of most of the affirmed is practically zero. To which Humboldt Renegade Farm says at Big Jig, it's about a nonprofit trade group that was formed supposedly with Kana money. Go to his site and read, LOL. To which Big Jig responds back at Humboldt Renegade Farms and says, which trade group? Just looking for info. For context, and so you know I'm not trolling, I've spent hundreds of thousands of my own money fighting for small farmers for the bigger cause, and my understanding of what happened is relegated to Kana failing as a business and not paying my friends. If there was payments made to weird nonprofits, I'd love to hear more. I've been pretty close to both the farmer and corporate side of what happened, but I'm sure there are inaccuracies I'm not aware of, he says. To which First Class Concentrate says, how are these guys still in biz? I heard they were backdooring cases of year-old weed for $30K. Weave Killer says, I worked at Kana from the early days. They had a great business plan and the company was run so well. I loved working there while I did. Those investors were predators. Humboldt Ridge Top Organics says, it's hilarious how our local folks think they're God's gift to cannabis because they made millions pre-legalization. Post-legalization, they're still trying to figure out how to run a legal business. These corporations, regardless of their recent failures, make and execute calculated plays, regardless if money is gained or lost. This is their strategic playbook. Lastly, if you live in San Jose, California, and claim to know what's going on in Humboldt County culture, I call you repping the wrong set. Weed is where we made money as kids, but now we're adults. It's time to grow up and invest like the rest of the world. Why do ignorant people think growing grass is so hard these days? Growing grass was hard when Wayne Hansen and Steve Knight were chasing us with their Ray-Ban sunglasses on in their Eurocopter. Now it's child's play at best, he says. Keone's Farm says, Kana bought the old Fetzer Winery processing facility in Redwood Valley near the broiler, and it's a huge storage facility now for products if anyone needed to know. To which Sir_Chatch says at Keone's Farms, they went under a few years ago. After they started that fire, no one wanted them here anymore. Never High Life says, Bill Carlin said it best. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. The good old days are never coming back. Hard pill to swallow, but the truth hurts. I think that was actually George Carlin, but nonetheless, it might be just a typo. My name is Vegas says, thank Jay-Z's hedge fund for all this. It's all part of the bigger plan to remove small business and keep it all corporate. And Sticky Fields Live says, people didn't care where the money came from. So many farmers jumped on the bus with riches in their eyes. Licensed farmers should have the right to sell directly or work with a giant tobacco company. Underscore Nita says, wolf in wook clothing. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Tiger Style 27 says, all of those companies are a bust. Crew underscore Stu says, that smoky amber jar haunts my dreams. And the underscore real underscore convicted underscore vape says, yeah, Altria was the main player in taking down the vape industry. They helped write the laws that sealed the deal to put all these people out of business. Now the only people who profit from salt vapes is big tobacco. To which Himinix says, yep, spot on. Did you notice they launched their IQOS product at the same time the vape crisis started? I had a lab test, an IQOS tobacco pod, and it blew past the California limit for cadmium levels in cannabis. Lazy Dog underscore natural says, all the farmers that worked with Kana were the pro Prop 64 guys that called all the farmers who argued to vote against 64 greedy, LOL. Bussin Blanca says, I lost so much money on Chrono stock. House of Ken 710 says, hope they keep investing in companies like MedMen. Lindsay Don Anderson says, the cannabis industry. Wonder how many millions they conned out of people. Trinity County AG Alliance says, imagine doing the bidding of big tobacco via a company that doesn't exist. TCAA was team #fuck Kana since its inception before they ever got involved with Altria. So was pretty much everyone else by the time they folded. Sr.Josh Yulcrow says 100% true. Most people don't even read anymore. Empower yourself, people. Old news. Full Moon Cannabis says keep money out of nature. Grow your own. Support your local friends and family. And don't blindly send your money to anywhere. And Eden Farms official says Kana tried not paying my family. I had to, in person, threaten Mikey's life to get paid out. Good freaking riddance, he says. Well. What a sad story in relation with everything happening up north with all of that stuff. But moving right on in to story number 2 today on the blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. The appellate court ruled that a landmark decision by the U.S. Supreme Court means that convicted felons can't automatically be deprived of their right to bear arms. That's right, the next stop, the U.S. Supreme Court. Missouri also gave a similar decision in a similar case heard earlier this year. States are making moves as our nation prepares for the real live version of the Hunger Games. The article reads, a Ninth Circuit panel ruled that a complete ban on convicted felons possessing firearms violates their Second Amendment rights for non-violent offenders who have completed their sentences. The decision overturned the firearm possession conviction of a Los Angeles street gang member with 5 prior felonies. Judge Carlos Bia stated that the government failed to show a historical tradition of supporting such a ban. The ruling leaves open the possibility that felons convicted of violent crimes could still be prohibited from owning guns. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles may seek a full Ninth Circuit Court review, and the decision could be influenced by the upcoming Supreme Court ruling in the Rahimi case related to gun rights and domestic violence restraining orders, and the source of this article is the AZ Mirror. Well, you guys. I mean, I believe that in all reality, the only thing that should stop us from owning a gun should be some type of change to the Constitution. And since nothing has happened with that as far as the Second Amendment goes, I'm not really personally in favor of any type of gun bans whatsoever. I do believe that they keep people safer, they keep communities safer. And if you look at the crime statistics, all of these cities that have very high gun bans all seem to have the most gun violence. So I wonder if that's a correlation. I don't know. There's all the pros and the cons of this and that always go back and forth in regards to this. But nonetheless, let's roll right on in and see what you guys have to say, because I find that extremely interesting, you guys. Miss Jill 420 says, well, if that's the case, then people who are cannabis users should be allowed to carry firearms. I totally agree with that, Ms. Jill 420. OG.330 says, what's worse is the ATF has a program where you can apply to get your rights restored, but it hasn't been funded since 1992, so it's impossible. Matho Floor Sheriff says, good, all gun laws are unconstitutional. My name is Vega says, how about letting them vote once they're released? To which Brian Burton says, alongside the people that aren't citizens of this country that are allowed to vote. That Graftitude says, Biden working hard to overturn that conviction for the Sun. Mr. Ted Large says, I'm ready to go buy a gun. Buying Bonanza, give me my 2A back, he says. Well, pow, pow, pow. Base of Chandler says, just in time for the Hunter Biden trial. Yeah, a lot of these guys went down that rabbit hole. Tackle Duro 1 says, I've been saying this for a long time. For states to ban guns until a certain age is, or for felons goes against the Second Amendment. State laws, 10th Amendment, regulating guns and the ATF is an infringement to the Second Amendment. I agree with that. A lot of people don't. Don_Devo says, nonviolent felons deserve the right to bear arms. I totally agree with that too. Steve Ong #1 says, this is all well and good on the federal level, but it still hinders you on the state level where you actually live. I'm all for everyone having access to guns unless your crime was violent and or had a victim. I also don't really care. I carry no matter what the law says, he says. Dryo Dog says, this would be epic if only this had happened a year ago. I'd be having my own YSL trial, but ready to beat them. Blessings to everyone who's been thrown into a cage like an animal for being involved with a plant. That's a literal war on farmers and the people. Free Max C says, so my felony for cannabis possession means I can finally own a gun? Nice. Dia.Saba says, how quick Hunter Biden's guilty verdict changed the law. Interesting, ain't it? Desert to the Ocean says, when they're right, they're right. Never expected this decision from the Ninth Circuit, did we? I definitely didn't. Chili_1 says, so does this mean I can get a gun now with a weed conviction in the feds? LOL, I'm getting the strap. Cincinnati 420 Medical says, nonviolent felony especially shouldn't take your natural born rights away. Okay, now do people who smoke weed that have their constitutional rights taken away because they consume a freaking plant? It's okay to have some Jack Daniels next to your AK, but not a plant, he says. PR_OG Sour Cookies says, well, it doesn't say that felons can't have access to right to bear arms in the Second Amendment. You're right about that. Mr. Garrison_2024 says, I mean, if you have to strip former criminals of rights, it tells us they don't believe the system works either. And Philip_619 says, this is how you know they know it's going to get bad. They're like, fuck it, arm the felons just in case China and Russia want to find out. Well, that all could be happening very soon. Man, oh man, it's a crazy, crazy world we're living in, you guys. But nonetheless, we are going to move right on into story number 3 in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. That's right. Spanish law enforcement under Operation Lumbre has decimated a criminal organization engaged in the international marijuana trafficking. The operation, spanning provinces including Almeria, Malaga, Toledo, and Zaragoza, resulted in the arrest of 28 individuals and the investigation of 2 others on charges of belonging to a criminal organization, drug trafficking, and electricity theft. Initiated in mid-2023 following several drug-related operations, the investigation uncovered ties among individuals with prior records in European countries. The organization amassed large quantities of marijuana from cultivators in Almeria and Toledo, then packaged and stored in vacuum-sealed containers on a property in southern Madrid. A coordinated effort involving simultaneous raids on transport trucks en route to European countries intercepted communication among organization members. In one instance, a truck inspection in Zaragoza revealed a hidden compartment containing over 100 kilograms of marijuana, leading to the arrest of 11 individuals. Subsequent phases of the operation targeted individuals responsible for marijuana cultivation and distribution, resulting in the arrest of 17 more individuals and the investigation of 2 others. Raids in Almeria and Toledo uncovered 9 indoor marijuana cultivation sites with approximately 1,500 plants. The operation, led by the Organized Crime and Drug Unit of the Almeria Command, was overseen by Almeria Court Number 3 and the Special Anti-Drug Prosecutor's Office. This was from Stringer's Hub, you guys. Well, I guess it sounds like Europeans aren't prone to drug busts. It happens here in the U.S. all the time, and it looks like it's happening in Europe too. So I don't know why anyone is surprised by this. And of course, they have criminal gangs. People have been living in Europe a lot longer than people have been living in the U.S. besides Native Americans. But nonetheless, I'm going to digress and roll right on into your comments. A1.Chad says, must be a 5K unit. BoneDoc92 says, at Victor the Sheet, no, that's Spain weed. Cali weed goes for more. Exotic Mycologist says, at BoneDoc92, Spanish goes for like 2.7 a key. Not usually nice, to be honest. Pot Tops Shireland says, the Barcelona to Amsterdam shipment. Laughing faces. George_Lazarga says, they sure saving the world, right? Man, I just want you to say bad boys, what you gonna do? That's right. Patriot Wrinkler says, X-ray machine wins again. Cannabis_California says, thank God they stopped it now. There will never be another shipment again. You're so right. It probably went through about an hour later, right? Rob Blunt says, when the penalties are high, the prices are good. It's true. Low Temp 818 says, definitely a snitch. Well, 99.999% of the time it involves a snitch. The only other 0.01% of the time is when the NYPD happens to stumble upon a Brooklyn warehouse, right? Let's see, to which Sky Malik says, just got done reading about criminal organizations in Spain, and it says the almighty Latin kings run Spain. They are the biggest criminal organization in and out of prison, with chapters across the whole country and surrounding countries around Spain, LOL. WTF. They even out there running shit. Jesus Christ, he says. And to which Adri the farmer says, Skylamac, come and I show you. Well, an open invitation to see the underground of Spain. What a nice offering. You guys are so nice on the blacklist, you guys. So nice. And moving right along into story number 4 in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. Now, this story is a story we at High at 9 News broke on Wednesday, so please make sure to share this story on all of your social media pages, Twitter, X, IG, LinkedIn, etc. The link is on our website at www.highat9news.com. We will post it in the description below, as well as we're posting that thumbnail right there so that way you can see it too. On Monday, a Ventura County court ruled that an applicant for a permit to carry concealed weapons, CCW, was not disqualified because he used cannabis. Ryan Adam King, who filed an application for a CCW in March of 2023 with the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, King answered no to a question about being addicted to controlled substances or alcohol, or whether he had ever utilized an illegal controlled substance. King was interviewed on February 12th of 2024, almost 11 months after applying for a CCW by the sheriff's investigator, Patrick Hawthorne. Hawthorne prepared and filed a declaration with the court after the interview that reads like a reefer madness era statement about marijuana being a dangerous drug. Disqualifying a person from obtaining a CCW in a February 2024 phone interview, King told Hawthorne that he does not regularly use cannabis, but 3 or 4 times a week prior he had used cannabis at a party with friends. Hawthorne stated in his May 1st, 2024 declaration to the court that King's application was denied based upon a penal code section that disqualifies a CCW application if the applicant is, in quotes, currently abusing a controlled substance. In California, marijuana is a Schedule I controlled substance, as it is under federal law. The rationale for the denial appears to be based upon this single use 3 to 4 weeks before the interview. For good measure, investigator Hawthorne referred to a federal law that makes it a crime to possess a firearm if you have an illegal user or a controlled substance. Hawthorne also refers to a federal regulation that infers current illegal drug use from evidence of recent use. You can read more directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And in an update on this story, I got a text from the defendant in this case, Mr. Ryan Adam King, letting me know that the Ventura County Sheriff's Office would not be appealing this court's decision. We will be doing a follow-up interview with Mr. King in the coming weeks, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. Well, I just think this is a big, big victory for all cannabis people across the country. I do think that this will have rippling effects, not just here in California, but also across the country when it comes to any place where people are being persecuted of obtaining a CCW or even their right to bear arms, which is given to them in the Constitution. It's called the Second Amendment. So make sure you go file them, get them. If you need help, let us know. Maybe we can help you out. You never know. I mean, we do know a couple things. But nonetheless, let's see what you guys know and have to say about this. To which the Budfather has a great meme of, that's right, the American Eagle, Mr. America. Fuck yeah. PuzzlePie.co.ca says, love to see it. Terp_time says, huge win for both cannabis and firearms advocates. Dat Dude Devin says, Florida could learn a lot from this. You are so right about that, Dat Dude. Had to change username _ says, how did Callie just do something right? Forgive me if I misread. I'm driving, reading, so I paraphrase that. Well, no, you are 100% right. California did do something right. This amazes me. And to which the Blacklist responds to had to chance username says, must be a blue moon. That is really funny. Blacklist, very, very funny. Daniel DeLora says, I don't understand how in all state cannabis and firearms are unacceptable, but alcohol and firearms are completely okay. Jack McCain says, but didn't Hunter Biden's been pretty popular today. Up and Never Down says minor victories. Yes, that is. It is a minor victory, but it'll have long-lasting effects. And Irwin Deep Sai Sana says, ATF rubbing their hands right now, LOL. 707 Humboldt County says, no fucking shit. The real question is if the individual lawmakers will be prosecuted that violated the Bill of Rights and individuals' freedoms. That will be the day. And G1 Fetid Music says, I spray my Glocks with terps. That is very cute. Very, very, very cute. Must be a humdinger. And coming up next for our fifth and final story of the day, I am going to need this hat, Millie. And moving into our final story in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ, I get to wear my official narco hat for this one, guys. That's right. Sinaloa. Nearly 50 people have been charged in Southern California after hundreds of federal agents and state local law enforcement officials busted a drug trafficking network linked to the Sinaloa Cartel, the U.S. Department of Justice announced on Wednesday. 14 indictments were unsealed on Wednesday, charging 47 alleged members of a fentanyl and methamphetamine distribution network based in Imperial Valley, California. According to the Department of Justice, federal prosecutors said the 47 individuals were charged with various crimes, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and gun-related offenses. More than 400 federal, state, and local law enforcement authorities were involved in a coordinated takedown on Wednesday morning in which 25 search warrants were executed in parts of California, as well as Phoenix, Arizona, and Salem, Oregon. The Department of Justice said in a news release, authorities arrested 36 defendants and are still searching for 11 fugitives as of Wednesday afternoon. Among those arrested was Alexander Gridley, who allegedly trafficked methamphetamine while working as a U.S. Border Patrol agent. Authorities also confiscated significant quantities of fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin, in addition to seizing over 50 firearms, according to the Department of Justice. The Sinaloa Cartel is considered to be the largest and most powerful drug trafficking organization in the Western Hemisphere, according to the non-profit think tank Insight Crime. The organization has a worldwide network and is mainly involved in trafficking fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, marijuana, and heroin. The source of this story is out of the USA Today. Well. Man, oh man, oh man. Sinaloa in the news in Oregon, California, and Arizona. Big raids. It sounds like they got I'm surprised they didn't get much guns. Only 56 guns. I mean, with all those raids, three different states, I would think they would have got more guns. And the one thing that I do find super interesting is that there's no mention of any cash found. I wonder if there was another agent in on it, since there was already a corrupt Border Patrol agent, if he had some other buddy that just took all the cash in lieu of, because this article doesn't report of any cash being seized, and I don't know of any cartel members that have ever been raided that they didn't find any cash anywhere. Just saying. I mean, I thought that was news. But nonetheless, let's see what you guys have to say on this Saturday. 203MG says, MS-13 pitcher for the Sinaloa Cartel, laughy faces. You are right about that. Mr. Green LA says, best thing to do is stay away from anyone pushing fentanyl because you'll be in their Fed case. Family, friends, anyone. Very true about that. Stay away from the fentanyl, you guys. It is a no winner. Getting High with Cat says, wait, I thought the Chinese illegal grows were responsible for all the bad drugs. That's a good one. XO_Dro says, MS-13 and Sinaloa are two different groups, bro. Yes, they are. BBs_420 says, and no cash money seized, huh? See, you were thinking the same thing I was thinking. Asima33 says, now imagine how many millions more Biden has let enter the country and given them a plane ride, hotel room, spending money, voting rights, and gun rights. Crazy. Here's Grown449 says, what? A corrupt border agent? Really? The most corrupt government agency has corruption? Question mark. Just as confused as I am. Many Weathers 43 says, as long as Americans do drugs, this is going to stay a problem that can't be fixed. Well, I'd say to that is, as long as drugs are illegal, this is a problem that can't be fixed. If we had regulation and sensible reform on these things, it wouldn't be that type of a marketplace. But nonetheless, Rowdy the Great says, LMAO, bro. This is all fake news. Nothing going to change. Trust the ones doing the bus are the ones consuming the drugs. It's a full circle, he says. And shout out to Mr. Ben LeBone, deschedulenow.org pack says, Jason gets to wear his Sinaloa hat for this week's High at 9 News Hour coverage. You're right. And this has been the Blacklist XYZ, our blunt wrap-up of the week. Thank you all for tuning into this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. I'm your host, Jason Beck of High at 9 News. Make sure to tune in every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast for America's #1 daily cannabis news show, High at 9 News, as well as continue to comment on all of the posts, the Blacklist XYZ, and the Blacklist post throughout the week. Have a fantastic weekend, and don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as drop a comment down below with what you think about this weekend's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ, brought to you by High at 9 News, and have an amazing weekend, everyone.